This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, truth seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. Happy Halloween, everybody. I hope everyone stays safe this holiday. I want to see whether or not we had Nolan back in yet, but it looks like he is still trying to refresh and come back to us. Here he comes. Good morning. Oh, I lost him again. All right, that's the way the show's going to go today. Anyways, so this last week was given a video by Lindsay McBrayer, and I thought she might be here this morning. I haven't seen her yet, but we will bring her in when she arrives. And she had sent an interesting video in regards to Charlie Kirk, which I thought was extremely interesting. As I watched it over and over again, trying to determine whether or not there was a possibility that it was AI, I hopped around a little bit and stumbled across the actual video of him being shot. And of course, they actually have this up on the internet for the world to see. I did not want to play that video, but I did obviously capture a picture, in which case it shows the direction in which he actually was forced and collapsed. And of course, what we're looking at here on the presentation is the setup. So this is the overview of where the shooter was down here on Losi Center. And then, of course, the area that Charlie Kirk was in himself. And I was bewildered by this. I mean, honestly speaking, I shoot guns. I understand a projectile when it hits, what direction things would fall or go in. So my confusion came in the fact that Charlie Kirk actually fell to the left, and every position that we can show in all of these maps where the shooter actually was positioned or purportedly positioned, any map that I looked at all showed about the same location and firing to the left. So with that trajectory, we would have expected that had Charlie Kirk been hit in the right side of the neck from this, he would have fallen to his right, and he actually fell to his left. So that's what got me intrigued. And of course, I think Terry Batcher kind of climbed into my body when I saw this, and I went down a rabbit hole. So I wanted to, see maps. I wanted to see other items. I'm hoping that somebody can either correct me. Let's see. Whether or not I am correct in the fact that this man had fallen the opposite direction. And of course, in that video, there was this gentleman that seemed to have had some very odd and strange movements that took place in surrounding it. Here is the actual link down here. And once you follow this link on YouTube, you'll see this red pill type commentation that is happening, or debate that's happening between Charlie Kirk and another person. And then they go on to say that this is why Charlie Kirk was killed. It does appear as though he might have upset somebody. So I'm looking for any truth, any comments, anybody wants to add to that. But now I'm going to actually move on to what we're really here for, and that is the Jon Benet Ramsey case. So we had, along with that video that Lindsay had sent, she sent this particular, it looks like it's either YouTube or some type of comment that is done. Maybe it's Twitter or something. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, there's Lindsay and there's Nolan. You guys, welcome to the show.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning, Lindsay.
Oh, there it is. Good morning.
All right, so you guys, I really quickly passed by this, but I'm going to go back to it really quick because you set me on fire last week, Lindsay, with this whole video.
Yeah.
And I wanted your guys' take on it, so I just asked everybody out there and, Wonder World, whether or not what they thought about it. But I ended up skipping over to a live video of Charlie Kirk actually being shot, and the direction in which he fell or was propelled by this bullet hitting him was the opposite direction I felt than what the shooter was sitting at, or at least predicted to have shot from that particular building. And that kind of blew my mind because I watched the video over and over and over again, and they indicate that there was some gentleman there that they believe might have been the person who truly shot him. And the guy had some very odd and strange movements that were going on. But let's just take a look at this real quick.
Yes.
Here's the area where the shooter was positioned on top of Losi Center, and we can see it again. So this is just a second view up here. And then, of course, he's shooting to the left. So had he shot to the left and hit Charlie Kirk in the neck, that should have sent Charlie Kirk to his right.
Yes.
Not to his left.
Correct.
So now I'm wondering who Charlie Kirk really pissed off and what was really going on here. Anyways,
he was a long distance away. That's such a great shot from that distance.
For a youngin', that's for sure.
Yeah.
I was just blown away by the propulsion of his body. I mean, that makes no common sense. Are we trying to, fly past people the single bullet theory again with JFK?
It's literally a repeat. It's literally it's like so many similarities. It's insane. It's like, okay, are you using your same psyop that you used with JFK? Like, what are y'all doing? Like, fool me once, fool me twice, but you're not going to fool me 3 times. Like,
right. Right.
They keep getting away with it.
They're so stupid. But they think they're so smart,
Well, it's like Newsom right now with this special proposition or this special election that he's doing, where he says that Trump is attempting to gerrymander, when the strict meaning of that is to redistrict areas in order to facilitate an unbiased or a biased election. And it doesn't matter if you're doing that in the inverse or the adverse. Like, if you're doing the redistricting so a person can't achieve what they want to achieve, that's still the same thing. And he's looking at us straight to our faces saying, let us take this power from you so the government can redistrict California. And that's to prevent Trump from gerrymandering. It's like, am I really hearing and seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah, they're doing the same thing. It's a kind of a quid pro quo. It's it's the same thing on both sides.
Who is?
Both the Republicans and the Democrats.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, yeah.
Or what? What do you mean?
So they're trying to redistrict in order to get more constituents in office, or more people elected from their party.
Well, Republicans are asked.
California, Texas, all over.
Oh, well, but I'm saying Republicans in California are not attempting to redistrict.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Texas and other parts of the country. The whole point is to stack Congress.
I think Nolan's just saying, like, the majority of Republicans are usually undercover rhinos that are really on the side of the Democrats, is what he's saying. But we do have those ones far in between, like you said, in California, that are advocating against it.
It's going to pass. Either way.
I know it will. We are primarily a Democratic state, and if Newsom calls the Dems to the polls, then yeah, it's going to pass. There's what else is there to be said? And the bottom line is they're going to take the power out of the public's hand for something we've already been voted and given the right to do, and express and use that for the next 5 years. We're never going to see that again. We have just given up a power to the government that I don't think is going to come back around even at the expiration. Anyways.
Well, and then also Texas, just so you guys know, Texas just passed a AI thing in their state. What is it called? What are they calling it? The AI identity thing, where like you have to verify on your phone for like everything. I forget what they'd call it.
To be able to vote?
No.
To use
AI, right?
No, I can't remember. I'll have to pull it up, and then I'll tell you later. Yeah.
That would actually be a good thing, because again, as I sat there watching the video that you sent on the red pill and Charlie Kirk, I kept monitoring for whether or not that was AI there at the end, because we see him go from a debate into he's talking by himself as if it's a different clip in a different place and time. And I'm not sure if that's him or if somebody has AI'd that video. So that's why I didn't play or put up any part of it, but I did show everybody the link that they could go to look at it if they wanted. Anyways, that brings us to, again, the Ramsey case. And of course we have this post. Where did you receive this post from about Mr. Ramsey's company? Lindsay?
She froze.
Oh no.
She's frozen.
Just
Oh, here she goes.
Oh, there she is. Where did you find this post on Ramsey's business?
Okay, there you are. This one. Oh, this post.
Let me read it.
It was on that video I sent you.
Oh, I did.
About the
Oh,
update.
you mean on the pageant?
Uh-huh.
I'm getting feedback from your from whatever your sound is going. So it's repeating everything I say in my ears after I say it. So you've done something with your sound.
Audio, yeah. It's looping.
Okay, hold on. Let me see.
She's on a delay. Refresh the page. All right, she's gone. Anyways, so she had also, Lindsay had also sent me a video in regards to one of the last pageants that Jon Benet Ramsey had been in, and I guess this is some type of post that was beneath it. And it's not, I would love for it to explain more, but it says Mr. Ramsey's company was mixed up with some vile people. Years ago, before the web was scrubbed, there were some amazing sites that held info and photos. Read the essay agenda. I'm not sure what the essay agenda is. The Ramseys were in bed with some very sick people. All of that info was lost in cyberspace. And then somebody responded, you were very correct. They were part of the club that we are not a part of. So that was attached to a YouTube video of her pageant, correct, Lindsay?
Yeah, so an essay is SEX assault.
Oh,
Or what do you
sexual
call it?
assault agenda?
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, so that brings us back to you figuring out or doing the research and finding out that Ramsey's father built the runway for airplanes on Fox Island, which was notoriously known as a pedophile island, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So maybe, just maybe, and this is what bothers me about, John Walsh not wanting the FBI involved and the Ramseys not wanting, people digging into their dirt, is that they are in bed with some very, sadistic people, and they control you either through your family or assassinations or murders or what have you. So I wouldn't discount this particular statement, but I just wish they had given us a little bit more, like who are the people that they're in bed with, Well,
this weekend I was going to dig on it a little bit to see if I can go on the archives and see if there was something in there that was archived and they scrubbed from the web, but it's maybe still in the archived websites.
Yeah, and I'd use the Wayback Machine. Have you tried that? But you have to have a URL.
They call it the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us back to the actual ransom note, which we were finishing off discussing last week. We read the entire note, and then I was going back over it and kind of just doing a examination of the linguistics and what it was saying. And of course, we had made that comparison to the 50-year anniversary of Susan Degnan, a 6-year-old blonde girl that was killed, father again, high up in office type thing. And one of the things I failed to mention is that we know Jon Benet was killed in the basement, and of course, Susan Degnan was actually bisected in the basement of an apartment complex or some type of a building.
That was in Chicago?
That was in Chicago. Exactly. So again, there was just another one of those coincidences. We've got 2 6-year-old little girls. Now, we don't know where Susan Degnan was killed, whether she was, abducted and then killed, or she was killed in her bed and then taken out the window. But either way, the ending result was a basement for both of these little girls.
Wow.
I did kind of pull out too. One of the things that I kept catching on to, especially when looking at the handwriting, was this particular formation of the B's that look like they're done in one single stroke. And and then they actually don't come back and touch the bottom. So the bottom bowl does not actually reach back to the stem and close that B up. And we see that happening in the Scorpion letters and in the Jon Benet Ramsey letter. So again, those little nuances always, pop out at me, especially when you've studied this handwriting long enough. So the use of a lowercase y is a capital, which is just like Jack does. The individual is familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. It's pretty much the same claim that the Zodiac, Scorpion, and most other communications in the series have talked about, and the ability to conceal their identity, which either conceal or they had good cover.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
So I ran across something randomly about, it was a military operation that was called Operation Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally about a military operation of them being in control and using these experiments, like literally to do whatever they want to do, like pretty much like what you just literally said, like that it literally described it.
Concealing ideas.
Yes.
Like concealing their identities and all of that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, we've got Jack running around with 1,000,001 names, it feels like. He doesn't even know who he is, and maybe that presents for a mental health issue as well.
And get this. So it was, I can't remember which exact date, but it was 1960 something is when it started.
Oh, really? So
yeah,
predating the, well, definitely predating Scorpion letters, because that was 1991, purportedly.
yeah.
I'm really not sure if I believe that.
We know that Jack was being very nefarious in those days too.
Oh, of course.
From when you started in the beginning. So, yeah. I thought that was
it makes sense, and it falls along again with the whole zodiac symbols and the things Libra and Taurus and all these other things that have come into play, and people want to make it about the zodiac constellations and things, and it's just not.
No, it's not. No.
I found it interesting also that we see there's more than one reference to John in the letter, calling him by his first name. And we saw that in the 2005 finale letter when the author kept referring to Tim Miller. I was not the only person, Tim, that, he's basically using that same personal first, name reference as if he is familiar or knows this person. It's odd, but
yep.
We don't usually see that in these type of taunting letters to family members. The killer wants to tell you about what he's done. They're not, taking personal references to parents by calling them by their first names. There is the Southern statements, again, use that good Southern common sense of yours. Again, that's something we've talked about a lot in all the letters, is these Southern references. And then I did kind of pull out some things. So these down here are the letter M's for Jack. These are his normal lowercase M's. They look like capital letter M's, and they are done in a way that we see actually happening up here in the word common, and then back on the last page in immediately. So in those two words, we found these particular style M's, which look far more consistent and natural than some of these other funky M's that we're seeing in here that look like they're all tremorous and shaky. And I found that to be interesting. And of course, I think that I have some information in regards to Patsy's handwriting, if what they portrayed on the documentary was legitimately something she wrote. And I don't believe that she had done these M's. So these being dropped at the end of the communication or being different from every other M on the page is probably a good sign that we can rely on these as natural writing. Also, we have Jack doing the Tau T, which we know about throughout, many of the communications, which is also considered consistent with the Tau Ts that we see happening inside of this letter as well.
Okay, how long before the discovery of the body was the note found?
They found the note before they found the body.
Yeah, but how long? What was the time period?
It took. I guess
before
the family...
that she got John up. I think she found it first. Right?
Yeah, okay.
You think so? No, I believe that it was Fleet White and John Ramsey that found her. So basically, they'd all got friends.
No, but the note you were saying.
Oh,
I was
Ramsey
saying the
found the
note.
note. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Patsy found the note. Yes, sorry. That was on the bottom or on the steps that led to the kitchen, and she was on her way down, I guess, to the kitchen and stumbled across this note. And then, of course, friends and family came over, and they, ensued some type of a search throughout the house. Could not find her, and then it was at a much later time, I think, when the police officers showed up, that they instructed the lay people, including John himself, to go search for his own daughter. And of course, that's when they ended up in the basement and found her body.
Which is so weird to me. It's like, why would you not look there first? Like, that would be the most place that I would have thought of first.
So the note was basically a deflection tool. It was a sham to lead them off course and not look for the body, thinking there's no body, that she's been kidnapped.
Exactly. And that's basically what occurred in the Susan Degnan case. There was a ransom note left on her bed, but she was already dead by the time they found the ransom note. So there, again, we have similar circumstances that are breaking out here. And Susan Degnan's father was one of the head officers in the Office of Price Administration, where they set pricing for meat. And back then there was this whole like black market meat thing going on. And I guess they were rationing meats and giving bad meats to the Indians. They were doing all kinds of, really treacherous things. And of course, his daughter was taken. So it's something very similar. Now, this individual actually broke apart the ransom letter, which I thought was an extremely interesting find because it literally talks about the different statements that are being made aside from what I've discussed at this point. You could even apply most of the statements that are made in this analysis to the Zodiac killer. So I know that in this statement, what you're going to hear is them calling out Patsy Ramsey, but we already know that she's been excluded as far as DNA is concerned. So this statement analysis was done by Mark McClish, and it shows that it was posted on July 9th of 2001. So shortly after this was read and done. So it says a key piece of evidence in solving this murder is the ransom note. The police, as well as the Ramseys, believe that whoever wrote the note is probably the killer. If the police can match the handwriting in the ransom note to a suspect's handwriting, the case is solved. The problem has been they have not found a match. Even with a positive match, the ransom note is still the key to solving this crime. So I want to mention that obviously they're going to tell you, and I've heard this from the FBI, the letters alone are not going to solve the case now. What the heck are you talking about? You've got this individual up here declaring that that's exactly what would happen if we found a match. However, I suspect in this particular case that we would not find a match to the actual killer because I think that this was handled by more than one person. And I think that Jack was legitimately just the author of the letter itself and had the key information, just as John Mark Carr did in this case, but was not actively part of that crime. So it says using statement analysis, we can examine this ransom note and determine if it is a legitimate ransom note. Was it the intention of the writer to extort money from the Ramseys, or was the note written as a ploy after Jon Benet was killed? Determining the veracity of the ransom note is important. If the note is legitimate, then we know we have a kidnapping that went bad. This would exclude the Ramseys as possible suspects. Why would they kidnap their own child and demand money from themselves? If the note is fraudulent, then we know this was a murder made to look like a kidnapping. I think that's true, but I don't believe that it was murder by the family, then tried to cover up and make it look like a kidnapping. Anyone could be
Is she about the amount of money demanded too? Like,
yeah, it's going to cover all.
And that matches.
Yeah, it's going to cover all of that in this statement analysis. Okay. It says anyone could be a possible suspect. Let's examine the ransom note left at the Ramsey residence. I have added the numbers in the left-hand column to make it easier to reference while analyzing it. So, of course, over here is the typewritten version of that actual letter. It says one of the first things we notice is that it is a very long ransom note. Most ransom notes are short and to the point, as Susan Degnan's was, very short and to the point. We have your kid and she is safe. It will cost you $400,000 to get her back. Now, I don't know where he says $400,000 to get her back because
I was like, what?
That makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know what that reference to. It says, do not call the police. We'll be contacting you. This ransom note was written on 3 pieces of paper. This is our first clue. This note may be bogus. As we read the ransom note, we find it doesn't make much sense. Neither did a lot of the things from the Zodiac. Line number 2, we are a group of individuals. What exactly does the writer mean by group of individuals? Every group is comprised of individuals. That's what makes it a group. Is the writer telling us despite being a group, they maintain their individuality? I think that there's some truth to that. Most of the year, they live separate lives, but every once in a while, they come together as a group. My zodiac theory, right? Every now and again, they come together as a group. The writer also states in line number 2 and number 3 that they represent a small foreign faction. The use of word foreign doesn't make sense. Even to us, they are foreign. Even if to us they are foreigners, they wouldn't call themselves foreigners. It's like being in Brazil and calling a nut there a Brazil nut. When you're in Brazil, it's just called a nut. I thought that was cute.
And I think saying they're foreigners is just to throw people off again and cast blame on someone that wasn't responsible.
And that's exactly what happened in the anthrax letters. So it says, are we to believe that Jon Benet was kidnapped and then murdered because someone has a hatred for the United States? Most people would agree this crime is not an international incident. No, we don't come to America and kill a 6-year-old little girl because we hate the United States. That's about as dumb as the rioters down in LA burning up our own businesses and hurting the people who live here instead of, the government or whoever's responsible for whatever they're rioting for. In line number 3, the writer crossed out the beginning of a word. It appears that the first letter was a D and the second letter possibly an O. The writer may have started to write, we don't respect your business, but then changed it to, we respect your business. A kidnapper who already has his mindset would probably not make this mistake. The writer misspells 2 common words in lines 4 and 5, business and possessions. Now, this is what we saw oftentimes in the Zodiac letters, an attempt to dumb them down. Right? They were going to misspell some words and then in the next line spell them correctly. However, the writer correctly spells the words deviation and attaché, even including the accent on the word attaché. This leads us to believe the writer purposefully misspelled these 2 words to try to make it look like an uneducated person or a foreigner wrote this note. The 2 misspellings occur in the first paragraph. After that, the writer uses correct grammar except for using the article a when he should have written an. This is further indication the misspellings were done on purpose. The writer showed his true writing skills and forgot to misspell words throughout the note. Anything to add at this point?
No.
Well, I think that interpretation. Oh, sorry, Nolan.
Was 184,000. It's
118,000 is actually the amount. Yeah.
And that coincides with a certain figure, like in one of the Ramsey's account that only the Ramseys would know about.
It was a bonus that John Ramsey was being given from his company that year.
Okay, yeah. So that is just really
that's the inside information that I'm stating that the author was aware of. Just like John Mark Carr was also given an arsenal of inside information, but ultimately found not to be the actual suspect. So we're going to get to John Mark Carr. It says in lines number 4 and number 5, the writer tells us we have your daughter in our possession. Remember that the shortest way to say something is the best way to state it. A true kidnapper would have said, we have your daughter. The words in our possession are understood and unnecessary. This is an over-disclosure. You're trying to impress upon somebody that you actually have their daughter. So it sounds to me like they killed her and then this note was placed in, or the 2 weren't on the same task, right? The killer and the author being done at separate times in separate ways would have led to these kind of mistakes in a true note about the crime.
Correct.
Oh, the writer states in line number 8, you will withdraw $118,000 from your account. The kidnapper may know the Ramseys are wealthy, but how does the writer know they have $118,000 in their account? Most kidnappers would simply state, get the money. They don't care where you get it from, just get it. That is so true. Again, we have an overstatement. The amount of $118,000, of course, was asked for in $100 bills and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. This is also consistent with the Dagnan note because the author not only asked for a specific amount, but he asked for it in specific denominations and 2 of all, 5s and 10s, I believe, something ridiculous. The amount
and
of
John did it. He did
What's that?
He actually did that. He actually called up his friend and that person actually is kind of, I've actually looked into him, the one he got the loan from to get the money out as quick as he did. And he actually got the money out and everything, like literally.
Why would you go through that if you'd been the one that killed your daughter and knew she was downstairs?
I know why.
Why?
Okay.
To get them to not look here, look over there.
So you still believe that the Ramseys killed
I
their own
don't think
daughter?
that they did it. I don't think that they did it physically. I think that
he knows more than he's talking about. He knows more than he's letting us know.
But I mean, I can tell you my theory
Go
like
for
later
it.
if you want. I think that they were trafficking her to their friends, and that they had some kind of blackmail on the Ramseys in order to, they were pretty much like sucked into it to where they had to keep doing it, and that one of their friends accidentally did it, and they had to cover it up because it was their fault technically because they allowed it to happen.
That's an interesting thought, but that night, I mean, I don't really understand. They come back from a Christmas party and then they're allowing their daughter to be sexually abused. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that whole entire scenario, but we can definitely discuss that at a later date when we get into some of the evidence that has been brought about.
Yeah, I have a lot of that too.
And I put in a lot that you sent me. So the amount of $118,000 is relatively small amount of money. Kidnappers are greedy. A true kidnapper would demand much more money. The phrase "your account" is very interesting. First, as I previously mentioned, a kidnapper would not tell you from where to obtain the money. If the kidnapper did, the writer would probably use the phrase "the bank." Secondly, if Patsy Ramsey was the author of this note, then we can see how in targeting the note towards her husband, she would use the phrase "your account" versus "my account." And that's to suppose that she is the one that actually wrote this. And we have to remember the initial start of this letter showed that it was written to both of them. So it was addressed to both Patsy and John in the very beginning. In line number 10, the writer tells Ramseys to bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. Most kidnappers are not going to remind you to bring an adequate size case to hold the money. Likewise, in line number 13, it is doubtful that a kidnapper will tell you to be rested because the delivery process will be exhausting. Yeah, nobody's going to tell you get some rest. You got my kid. Nobody's resting. Nobody's sleeping. Nobody's taking a nap, you know? Line number 13 and number 14, the writer states, "If we monitor you getting the money early." Later in line number 30, the writer states, "You and your family are under constant scrutiny." Kidnapper would have us believe that they are continually watching the Ramsey family, and they believe that that is highly unlikely. Well, it is highly unlikely because consequently she's already dead. So line 19, we have an unnecessary word, which is "over." Unnecessary words are words that can be taken out of the sentence, and yet the sentence still makes sense. The writer could have stated, "the two gentlemen watching your daughter." By including the extra word, the writer is including extra information. What is the difference between watching someone and watching over someone? The best example I can think of is in reference to God. If I say that God is watching over me, I visualize God keeping his distance. He sees me, but he also sees the entire world at the same time. He can see me because I'm part of the world. While he is watching over me, he is also watching over others. The word "over" means God is spreading his watchful eye upon the earth. However, if I say that God is watching me, it becomes more personal. Even though he can see the entire world, he is focusing his attention on me. Another example would be if a friend asked you to watch over his house while he was out of town. In this case, he probably wants you to stop by every once in a while and make sure everything is okay. Maybe you will pick up his mail and water his plants. However, if he asks you to watch his house, he probably wants you to house sit. He wants you to be there where you can keep a close eye on things. So that's a very good, interesting statement, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I always thought watching over was a little odd of a statement to have made, versus if she had really been kidnapped, they would be watching her, right?
Well, and that is another indicator to me that somebody was given the obligation to watch over her during these acts that they were allowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you see that? You see where
Yeah.
going with that? Yeah.
I have a quick question on the paper itself that the note was written on. Didn't they find similar paper inside the Ramsey house? And
it was a notepad.
The reason they initially suspected Patsy of writing the note?
Yes, and we covered a lot of this last week when we started Jon Benet Ramsey.
Yeah,
the notepad was definitely from the Ramsey household, as was the Sharpie pen that was found. The pen that was actually used was an outdated, expired Sharpie, whereas all the rest of the Sharpies in that cup were all brand new. And like Lindsay and I had talked about, there was a break-in before this at the Ramsey's house in Charlevoix, in which case this horse training rope was found. There were some things that did not appear to belong to the family, and the maids didn't recognize any of it. And then, of course, that could have been a place where he picked up this out-of-date Sharpie pen and this notepad, because I'm sure that they're carrying probably both type. If she keeps it in one house, she's rich enough to have it in the other house too. She's not carrying her pads of papers and her Sharpies with her from one location to the next. I'd put money on that.
Okay.
Yeah. In a kidnapping, the kidnappers should be watching the abductee. They will want to keep a close eye on her. They want to make sure she doesn't escape or alert someone that she needs help. They will want to make sure she doesn't harm herself if being alive is dependent upon them receiving the ransom. When the writer of the ransom note said they were watching over Jon Benet, the writer was telling us they were not keeping a close eye on her. There are only two reasons why you would not closely watch your hostage. Number one, if you knew for certain she was all right and could not escape. And number two, if you knew she was dead. Since a dead body isn't going anywhere, it is something you watch over. Based on the language used, it appears the writer knew Jon Benet was dead when writing the ransom note, or that she was going to be dead. So I would say in both occasions, if this, she's either already dead when it's written, but then that would indicate that this long, lengthy note was written with speed and haste, obviously, because if you just killed this little girl down in the basement, I mean, how are you going to sit down and write a 3-page ransom note? I'm finding some of these things to be a little off. The sentence, the two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them, is not very aggressive language. This would indicate that a woman wrote this note, so he's back at Patsy here. Other statements in the ransom note, such as, I advise you to be arrested, also show a feminine touch. Saying that Jon Benet will be beheaded in line number 22 is very unusual. In the United States, we generally do not talk about beheading people. This was put in the note to make it look like a foreign faction again was behind this kidnapping. That, or in my mind, it's the crossover and tie into the Degnan murder.
Interesting.
He goes on to say 4 times the writer uses the phrase, she dies. The problem is the writer should be speaking in the future tense. She will die. This is a strong indication the writer knew Jon Benet was dead when the ransom note was written. The note is addressed to Mr. Ramsey. However, towards the end of the note, Mr. Ramsey becomes John. The writer refers to Mr. Ramsey as John 3 times. If this was a foreign faction, he would continually use the term Mr. Ramsey, referring to him by his first name as too personal for an unknown kidnapper.
Yeah, they definitely were unknown. 100%. But it definitely was not Patsy either.
No, it definitely was not.
It was somebody they knew 100%.
Somebody was tasked to write this note, I believe, ahead of time, knowing what the overall plan was. There are no synonyms in statement analysis. Every word or name means something different, even if it is only slightly different in meaning. A truthful person will usually be consistent in their language and not change their language by using synonyms unless there is a justification for the change. Deceptive people will sometimes use synonyms because they are making up the story and are not speaking from the heart. If the writer saw John Ramsey as being Mr. Ramsey, then he should always refer to him as Mr. Ramsey. When the writer changed the language and called him John, it is an indication the story is deceptive. Ooh, gave me goosebumps. But and then
it gives you that it lets you know right off the bat, like he's been going on this whole time. Like if you're talking to somebody, you just keep going on and talking to them, and then all of a sudden you just start saying John instead. It's like you've gotten so comfortable in that conversation that it slips immediately, and your cover is over and it's off.
Well, like I said, in the 2000,
go ahead.
in the 2005 finale note, he kept referring to Tim. You know, first it started Tim Miller, boo, it's me. And then it became Tim. So again, we see that same. So is that telling me that that particular letter is deceptive by any means? Is he not telling the truth? Is he taking credit for crimes he didn't commit? So all of these things are floating around in my head, because that now leads me to the 2005 finale letter, where he's attempting to take culpability for all these different crimes. And in reality, if it's a group of people that are committing them and he's trying to solidify that he's the only one they should be looking for, then that would in itself make it deceptive.
Mm-hmm. But it could be different writers. But the only case, if that would be the case, then it would be, then that means that Tim Miller himself was part of the group as well.
Well, not necessarily part of the group, but into something that the group didn't like happening. And there is.
When I say group, I mean, it's kind of like, some people don't know how to take this word cult, but he could have been a part of some type of cult or group, like meetings with people and that actually knew him. And that
Dennis, Dennis shared with me that there was drugs involved, and I don't know why Dennis would lie to me about something like that or what his purpose would be, but he had indicated that Tim Miller himself had said that that's what was going on during those times. So there is a possibility that they were stomping in the wrong territory, that they were overexerting their supply. Who knows, honestly speaking, but it does sound like it's something nefarious, because we have him go on to Texas Equisearch, which is like John Walsh going on to America's Most Wanted. I mean, come on.
The only benefit that I could give him, other than John Walsh, is the fact that he hasn't really made himself as public, or he hasn't really put his stuff on TV
certainly tried. And he's the one that found Casey Anthony's baby in that suitcase off in Florida swamps. So he did make a name for himself. He has been out there in the movie world and all of these other things.
Oh yeah,
he's right up there doing the documentaries, just like John Walsh.
And actually a recent one but I'm saying, like, it's nowhere near as frequent as John Walsh covering every single case in the creation. And and another thing would be, like, I think that maybe he wanted to be in that limelight, but they weren't. They're like, no, we got this. We don't need you. But he just kept trying because, he
basically became the same person, searching for.
And then I was going to tell you also, like,
he's searching for dead people or missing people, while John Walsh is looking for the suspects.
Yes. So that's what I was going to say. But I thought I caught myself, like, every now and then asking somebody, like, people, like, okay, you know who America's Most Wanted host is? Okay, well, do you know who the founder of Equisearch is in Texas? And they're like, no, I have no idea what that is. Yeah. They don't know what it is. And I'm like, how do you not? Like, I was talking about a case that actually happened here, and they came here. He came here, literally, and they were like, oh, I don't know that. I don't know what that is. And I'm like, what? So it just kind of gives you just that, like, verification, like, that he definitely is not in that same position.
He's not as well known. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
So the notice signed SBTC, there is no period after the letter C, purportedly. He says, when writing, we end a thought by placing a period at the end of the sentence. Not using a period tells us the writer intentionally stopped writing. There may be a conflict at this point in the story. The writer may have more information that was purposely withheld. After re-examining a copy of the ransom note, I believe there is a period after the letter C. It looks like the period was placed so close to the C that it bled into the letter. And that's what will happen with the Sharpie pen if you don't give yourself enough room. There has been a lot of speculation as to what the letters SBTC mean. The one that makes some sense to me is saved by the cross. This is because the Ramseys profess to have faith in God, and because every victory precedes the initials SBTC. As all Christians know, it is through Christ's sacrifice on the cross that we have victory over death. And then, of course, there's this Subic Bay thing that had gone on and John Ramsey was actually part of that particular mission or whatever they did there. I'm not really that's the Bay of Pigs, right, Nolan?
Let's say that name again.
SBTC Subic Bay was the was the Bay of Pigs, right? It was
I'm
something to
not
do with
positive.
Bush and
not
oil
sure.
and Cuba and
Yeah, that was the Bay of Pigs. What you're saying about Bush, but I'm not sure about the Subic Bay. I haven't seen that correlation.
I'll have to go back to it. It might have been something that Terry B came up with. Okay, so in examining the pronouns, we find this crime was not committed by a group. If you are writing for a group, then your language will reflect there are several people involved. Throughout the ransom note, the writer uses the plural pronouns we, us, and our because the writer wants to give the impression that a group is responsible for the kidnapping. In lines 2 through 5, the writer states, you must follow our instructions. In line 28, follow our instructions. However, in line 17, we have any deviation of my instructions. That's where I believe that, yes, the author slipped up because while he may have been writing this for a group of people, he then referred to himself because, again, he's displaced from the actual act that's happening. So it becomes his instructions. Yeah. Let's see. If this was a group
you read my mind just then.
Good minds think alike. If this was a group effort, the writer would have a group mentality and would consistently use the plural pronouns. Look at line 11 and 14. I will call you versus we might call you. People's words will betray them. The truth will slip out. And in this case, we can easily see it in the pronouns. This is what I do when I'm looking at anonymous letters and somebody's attempting to accuse somebody of something or act like there's somebody else telling on somebody. Or they're writing a will for someone and they draft it using the wrong pronouns. That's usually a key indicator that you've got fraud going on. Yeah. We see deception in this ransom note with the changing pronouns. This kidnapping was not the work of a terrorist group. One person, probably a woman, wrote this ransom note. One person and perhaps an accomplice committed this crime. As you can see here, or see there's a lot of deception in this ransom note. The writer's own words tell us this ransom note was not written with the intent to obtain money. Since the ransom note was written as a ruse, we can conclude this was not a kidnapping that turned into a murder, but a murder made to look like a kidnapping. This means we cannot exclude the Ramseys, which they've already been excluded. Sorry, dude. I don't know why in 2001, if you're writing this and you didn't realize that they had been cleared from DNA in 1997, where you would have gone there. And obviously that would have led us down a different road. So maybe this is.
But don't forget the jury, the grand jury that they did.
They agreed to indict. But what I'm saying is that this individual trying to push away from a group effort or that there's group involvement would take away from your theory, take away from my theory, and lead people down a different path to continue to ensue the Ramseys as the murderers.
Well, that's what they want you.
Right. That's what they want. Well, they want that, or they want it to be some lone single person, which I still find that every analysis that he's made in this could still apply to the theory that I have about Jack being part of a group, but being the individual author writing it, knowing what was going to transpire. Let's see. The ransom note was written on a pad of paper that was in the Ramseys' residence. Likewise, the pen that was used to write the note also came from their residence. The killer placed a nylon cord made into a garrote around Jon Benet's neck and strangled her. A broken paintbrush belonging to Patsy Ramsey was used to make the garrote. While the handwriting analysis shows that John Ramsey did not write the ransom note, Patsy Ramsey could not be completely eliminated as the writer. Certain words in the ransom note, such as instruction, monitor, execution, scanned, electronic, and device, are computer terms. Ding, 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 ding. There's Jack, you guys.
Well, and they keep saying Patsy, but that's also an indicator that this person knew Patsy. That she knew what they knew what
they're gonna be. Well, no. This isn't words Patsy used. You didn't.
Okay.
Listen. The person is making note that these words are computer terms. So somebody must be in the computer realm in order to be using these as fluent as they are. And Jack, we know, was into computers. At the time of Jon Benet's death, John Ramsey was president of Access Graphics, a computer distribution company. Kidnapper demanded $118,000 from the Ramseys. This is a very unusual amount. Most people would ask for a much larger amount. There's a reason why the writer chose the 118. And that was because it was literally a bonus that John Ramsey was receiving. We're down to about the last 30 seconds or so. I think we're talking about the word hence. as something that Patsy used later in a Christmas card. But she's read this note so many times, and I know there's times when I do handwriting, and I swear I've never done a letter in a particular way, but after studying somebody's handwriting for hours and hours, I find myself the next day actually using that form when I've never used that form before. It can get into your head, and it can stick, and it can become part of your arsenal if it is read and looked at enough. That's it, you guys. Is there anything last? A couple seconds. Really, I just have time to
be safe tonight.
Absolutely. Everybody, happy Halloween and have a great time. Stay safe. Thank you, you guys.
Yes.
We'll see you next week.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
All right. See ya.
Oh,